Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. And welcome to a recap of episode 4, night number 13, I think, of Celebrity Big Brother season 3. Man, I didn't think we were going to get any live feeds last night. We eventually got some. We got a little bit. We'll talk about. We know who the HOH winner is, so there's certainly some news to talk about. But let's talk about the episode first. How exciting to have a live veto immediately followed by an eviction. Everything's getting squeezed in so tightly because it's a 3-week season. So we've got a lot of energy, a lot of action happening every night. I love the live veto format. It's a little bit like a double eviction, the second half of a double eviction where the veto occurs. People have to quickly make decisions. You have the vote and you move on. I enjoyed the episode last night. Now, it's a little bit of a refresher. We've got Chris Kirkpatrick, who had won HOH. We had Mariah and Chris Kattan on the block. The big question was obviously who was going to win veto, but what were they going to do with the veto itself? We had a lot of pressure earlier in the week from Misha and Toddrick for Chris Kirkpatrick to go after Carson and Cynthia. We've got those battle lines kind of drawn, but Chris not only resisted, but then we start hearing these conversations about maybe he was going to flip the other direction, blindside Toddrick. He told Shayna originally, then he told a few other people while he was trying to guarantee he had some votes with Lamar, Todd, etc. Kind of scary when you start talking about your plans with a whole lot of people because there's no secrets in the Big Brother house. So big question. Depending on who won the veto, was there going to be a blind side on Toddrick, perhaps? That was certainly a lot of discussion that took place over the last day or so. And we end up seeing the live veto competition. It's an observation game. It was fun. It was a fun game for the viewers because we got to play along at the same time that the house guests were playing. Basically, a very busy picture, trying to find which section of the picture was a random person holding a sign that said, "Will you marry me?" It's a promotion for some movie that's coming out Valentine's Day and all that. But the main thing, you had to look at the picture, find the "Will you marry me" sign before the picture went away, decide whether it was in section A, B, or C, and they did that 7 different times. Now, one thing, just so y'all know, when we do those competitions in the house, this is very similar to Patch Perfect, which was the observation competition that I won HOH in during my season when I won HOH right after my battle back. Very similar. How quickly can you look at a picture, make some observations, things like that. Just so you know, when we're standing in those little booths trying to figure this out, we basically have we have the same amount of time that you as a viewer had to look at those pictures. It wasn't shortened or anything else. It's obvious when it's alive like this. And we're looking across typically across the yard, and there's a big screen up on the other side, and you're just staring at that screen and watching to try to figure it out. So that's what we had last night. It wasn't a blowout by anyone. It came down to a final of 6 out of 7 correct by both Shayna and Toddrick. All right, now Shayna's working with Chris Kirkpatrick, who's talking about flipping, blindsiding on Toddrick. Toddrick absolutely potentially playing for his life at this point in time. So 2 people who really could have effects, both playing in this veto competition. They finish up tied. It's a question about how long from the time they saw the gala box till they actually revealed the twist, I think. Toddrick did not win, but Toddrick was only 5 hours away from the total number of hours. I think he said 180 and the answer was 175. If I'm one of the other house guests, I'm paying attention at how close Toddrick was, at how well he played the game overall. Just keeping that in the back of my mind. He revealed that he's a pretty good player under pressure and doing these type of competitions, but he didn't win. The winner is Shayna. So now, does she work with Chris Kirkpatrick, use the veto, let Chris put Toddrick up, send home a huge player, a huge early winner's pick? Nah, she doesn't. She leaves the nominations exactly the same as they were planned. For all the talk, she decided she would rather continue riding the middle rather than declaring a side. At the end of the day, she didn't want blood on her hands. If she had pulled someone off the block and Toddrick had gone up, Well, then Misha and other people in the Athletes Alliance were going to be chapped at her. She'd have blood on her hands, and she just decided that she'd rather just continue to go down the middle and not make the big move right now. So a little bit of a disappointment. I'm not saying it's not a good strategy. We'll argue that. We'll see how it turns out. But she doesn't feel like she's the top target from anyone. So that becomes the big question. Is it better to go after someone that's really good, really strong right now, take them out, build up your resume potentially, but then suddenly have a big old target on your back? Or are you better off just kind of staying low under the radar, let other targets remain bigger targets? But if you do that, you're taking a chance that one of these big threats are going to make it to the very end of the game, and then you don't win because of it. So you can go either way, I think, in terms of strategy. But she chose to go the easy road, the safe road, left the nominations the same. So Chris Kattan versus Mirai to see who goes home. Chris Kattan gets up and basically waves a white flag, gives up, surrenders, says, I think Mirai needs to stay. I'm ready to go. I've enjoyed it, guys, but I don't know this game. I'm out of here. And he still stays in the house. Mirai still goes home by a 7-0 vote. I get it. Yes, Chris may want to go home, and yeah, you want to help the guy out and all of that. But if they had sent Chris Kattan home, that kind of just is a waste of Chris Kirkpatrick's HOH. No one views Chris Kattan as a threat. He's one of those everyone's saying, well, we'd get rid of him whenever. So why would you send him home as opposed to if you're Shayna, for example, Carson, Cynthia, why send him home as opposed to sending home Mirai, who seemed a little bit, she was having a hard time this week, but she also was working a little bit tighter with Todrick and Misha and everything. So weaken someone from the other side while you have the opportunity. And that's what happened. So even though Chris wanted to go home, Mirai goes home by a 7-0 vote. And Chris Kattan is stuck in that house for one more, I was going to say one more week, one more cycle. He'll be here longer than that, I think. So here's the issue. Chris told Shayna that he was considering Todrick blindside. And I mentioned that it seems like he maybe told a few other people as well. No secrets in the Big Brother house. I'm not sure that Todrick knows right now that there was a talk about a blindside. But if so, suddenly Chris Kirkpatrick and potentially Shayna to some degree, but especially Chris Kirkpatrick, just start going right on up in terms of who Todrick and Misha would potentially be considering if they get back in power. So just keep that in mind. And then after all of that episode going on, we lose the feeds. We lose the feeds forever. It seems like it did give me a chance to get a nice little nap in, but eventually we get the feeds back around, I don't know, 3:30 or so Big Brother time. It was late, little middle of the night. We don't get a lot of information, but we do get the big information. We've got a new HOH winner, and the new HOH is Misha. Misha has won HOH for the second time out of three HOHs. She couldn't compete in the last HOH. She's only been able to compete in 2 HOHs. She's won them both. All right. If you don't consider her a comp beast right now, then you're Lamar Odom and not playing Big Brother. Misha's won both HOHs that she was able to compete in. Don't really know what the competition was. I saw one little blurb saying maybe there was a goof. There was a quick flash of something with a ski lift or something, a little ski lift chair, but don't know if it's an endurance, hanging on like you were doing a wall or something. I'd be a little surprised if they did another endurance so quick after holding on to the wine bottles and all that and the ropes, but maybe we'll find out here in next day or two. The end result, though, is Misha has won HOH. Todrick's incredibly happy, his final 2. So considering that he almost went home just 24 hours ago, and now he and Misha are on top of the world, it's amazing how quickly Big Brother can turn. Who's in trouble? Well, obviously, Carson and Cynthia are in huge trouble. They know they're kind of on the outside looking at this bigger group. Todrick had already been pushing to get Carson out. My guess is that Carson and Cynthia will go on the block by Misha because she's listening to Todrick. She was pushing to get the 2 of them on the block as well. So I fully expect Carson and Cynthia to go on the block. Now, it all comes down to who wins the veto. If if Carson or Cynthia go on the block, if they win veto, pull themselves down, then I think Toddrick's got two different ways he could go. If he hears the little rumors and scuttlebutt that Chris was potentially planning a blindside, he very well could replace Carson or Cynthia with Chris Kirkpatrick up on the block. Chris Kirkpatrick would not be surprised if that happened, but I still think whichever of Carson and Cynthia were remaining on the block, that person would go home. I expect one of those two probably to go home this week. Now, the other option, Toddrick, if he's not aware of Chris Kirkpatrick or if he wants to play nice, I'm not sure that'll happen. But if that was the case, maybe he could put up an obvious pawn like a Chris Catan. And again, no one's going to care that much about sending him home. Put up Chris Catan versus either Carson or Cynthia, and one of those two, Cynthia or Carson goes home. I think that's the way it could happen. I've been trying to think of a scenario where Carson could win veto and pull Cynthia off or vice versa. If the two of them go on the block together, that doesn't really seem a possibility. So I fully expect to see that. We'll find out. And finally, I see a lot of posts, people really upset with Misha, upset that she won HOH, upset with how she's acted, everything else. She's playing a great game. All right. And she's doing what she probably needs to do within Big Brother. She managed to get into a big alliance. She's got a final two that seems like they're very tight with each other. She's winning competitions. She's planning to pick off people outside the alliance. I don't have any issues with her strategy play. I've seen some people say, oh, she's a bully. She's trying to run the game even when she's not HOH. Well, yeah, she's playing hard, but I'm not going to fault her for that. It's who she is, and I admire the gameplay. She's a huge threat. I hope people understand that. I know there's a lot of conversation in this hour, so we had feeds. Cynthia, Chris, Kirkpatrick, and Carson all talking in various configurations about what an amazing competitor she is, that she's just uber level above everyone else in terms of athletic ability. And I'm not going to argue that. She's good. She's proving it to us. So as well as she's doing, she can't be HOH every week. And one of these weeks, I feel like someone's going to take the shot at her. So I'm thinking, as great as this is short-term, long-term, Misha may be putting such a big target on her back that she may not make it to the end. Of course, something similar happened to my season with Jackson Mickey, the competition beast, and he still made it to the end. So we'll find out what happens. But until then, guys, I know feeds came on 3:30 or so. Feeds went back out an hour after that. It looked like a house guest. We're pretty much ready to call it a night. I called it a night. So I don't think we've really had anything since then. But I'll be watching today, this evening. I'll be back tomorrow to give you all the latest updates, figure out just what Misha's going to do in terms of nominations and who's worried and who's not. I know who's worried. I think we all do. Guys, y'all have a great Tuesday. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.